What's up, guys? Zaxby Sauce, aka confusednsurgent here. Welcome back to another episode of Will It Game, the internet video series that is taking the internet by storm. In fact, it's even spilling over into the real world as you go to your Walmarts or your Targets or your Tesco's and you're walking through the aisles shopping for your groceries or whatever you may be getting on that day. You hear people chattering. You hear you overhear conversations of people saying, "Did you see the latest episode of Will It Game? Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing." Lots of twists and turns, M. Night Shyamalan-esque twists going on here all day, every day. And we are marching right on today. Today's entry is the R9 270X. This is the Sapphire Tri-X OC version of the 270X, but it is a 270X nonetheless. Now, before I get into the details of the card, I want to go over what we do and how we do it here at Will It Game. For those of you that may be new, firstly, I will give you a general overview of the card in question, the 270X, and things like release date, MSRP, original specifications, how much it costs now, so on and so forth. Then I will hop into overclocking results. That way you have an idea of how your card might perform were you to get one, or if you have one currently and haven't tried overclocking before. But obviously your mileage may vary because of the silicon lottery. You never really know what you're going to get. Then we'll go into the benchmarks that I used to benchmark the card in question. Again, the 270X. After listing the benchmarks used, we will go into the benchmark results. On the screen will be amazingly detailed, accurate, and perfectly graphically designed Excel charts. You'll see those. You'll be really impressed. They're really well done. I'm not a graphic designer, but I mean, I probably could be. I don't know. Just judge for yourself. Don't let me tell you how to feel about my excellent charts done in Excel. But see them for yourself, and then come back to me and be like, hey, graphic design, that's really your shindig. The charts will be on the screen for about 5 seconds each. You can pause at any point if you want to take a more detailed look at any of the results. Also, down in the description will be a Google Docs spreadsheet, actually a Google Sheets sheet, which you can view, that will have the results of all Will It Game episodes so far. So any card that I have reviewed in a Will It Game episode will have its full benchmarking suite listed there, so you can compare and contrast them. Also, anytime I need to go back and update a result based on different findings, because I go back and test these cards every once in a while again to make sure everything's still working fine, I will update that Sheets document. That is the authoritative source for benchmark results. After the results are done, we'll come back here for my conclusions and thoughts, and I'll tell you, can it play today's games, and is it worth it at its current price point? For the card specs, as I said, this is the R9 270X. This chip was codenamed Pitcairn, going off of AMD's island naming theme. So the Pitcairn Islands, they're actually a pretty famous island chain. I believe they actually had a very public and unfortunate sex scandal going on the Pitcairn Islands. Turned out that there was like some incest going on and possibly some sexual assault of minors. And that's not hard hat and that kind of minors. I mean like small children. MINORS as opposed to MINERS. Homonyms being what they are, you always want to make sure to clarify that point. Not that I am for sexual assault for minors. Let me be clear here. I do not condone sexual assault for either minors or minors. Either one. Just so we're clear. So this is the Pitcairn core. This is actually the exact same GPU used on the HD 7870, which was released originally in March of 2012 for an MSRP of $350. Now, this card, the 270X, was released in October of 2013 at an MSRP of $200. So $150 came off the price for the exact same chip. Basically clocked exactly the same. The memory clock was actually up a touch, but that doesn't generally make that big of a difference. Same 256-bit memory interface, 1280 stream processors, 80 texture units, 32 ROPs, and a core clock of 1000 megahertz that could boost up to 1050 megahertz. 5.6 gigahertz GDDR5 with a 256-bit memory interface that I mentioned before, and they usually came with 2 gigabytes of RAM. I think you can find a few of them out there with 4 gigs of VRAM, but most of the time it's going to be 2 gigs. And as we've discussed in the past, 2 gigs is a limiting factor at this point, even at 1080p gaming. It had a TDP of 180 watts as opposed to the 190 watts on the original HD 7870. So essentially, they gained a little bit of speed on the RAM. Otherwise, everything remained the same, and they somehow brought the TDP down 10 watts, which is pretty impressive. Overclocking-wise, this particular card did not overclock at all, essentially. It was about a 10 to 15 megahertz overclock was the most I could get without full crashing. Not just artifacting, the card straight up crashed past that. Now, it is a fairly decently overclocked card out of the box. This is the Sapphire Tri-X OC version, and the OC stands for overclocking. For the smart ones out there, I'm sure you got that before I said it. So this is overclocked a touch out of the box, and this GPU was probably binned, which means that it was specifically set aside for this speed threshold. So it's able to hit that and not much more. Sometimes those chips, the OC chips, are the best ones they could find, and you actually have quite a bit more headroom than they put out of the factory, and sometimes it will only hit what they targeted it for. That was the case with this one. Now, this R9270X also has two 6-pin PCIe power connectors. You can find these, though, with only one 6-pin PCIe power connector. This is also a very well-cooled unit, although the front fan doesn't work. It worked when I got it. It was a little wobbly, and I think it was just going out. As you can see, when I see how that one keeps spinning, when I spin it, keeps spinning. Look at that one. See, instantly freezes. So either the motor in the fan is seized. It's not actually hitting on anything. I can tell you that much. I haven't taken it apart to. I took the entire heatsink fan and shroud off and replaced the thermal paste and all that on it, but I didn't bother seeing what was going on with the fan. Even with only these two fans, it still stays at about 54 to 55 degrees Celsius under load, which is excellent. That being said, there won't be overclocking results today because obviously a 10 to 15 megahertz overclock on the core is not going to give you any noticeable increase in performance, so it'll just be the stock performance for this particular card on the charts. On the benchmarks used, first we have 2013's Tomb Raider and its 2015 sequel Rise of the Tomb Raider, 2013's Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor and its 2017 sequel Middle-earth Shadow of War, 2017's Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands, 2016's Deus Ex Mankind Divided, 2016's Hitman, 2015's Rainbow Six Siege, 2016's Steep, and 2016's Far Cry Primal, along with 2016's Doom. Now, Rise, Hitman, and Deus all have additional DX12, DirectX 12 benchmarks, which I will show in the results, and then Doom supports both OpenGL 4.5 and Vulkan. Vulkan is a very low-level API that has pretty drastic performance improvements on most cards, so you'll be able to see if that helped on the 270X in those results. On the synthetic side of the house, we have Unigen's Heaven, Valley, and Superposition, as well as 3D Mark's Firestrike and Time Spy graphics card score only. I don't want the CPU to be overly influential on the score results. All that being said, let's hop into the benchmarks, see the results, and then we'll come back here for my conclusions afterwards. See you then. And we're back. So this card is, as I said, an MSRP of $200 when it was released, and it is selling right now for between $100 and $120 US on eBay and similar markets. Now, that's a pretty good price. Here's the thing. It's selling between $100 and $120 US. So you're looking at roughly what you would pay for a 950, something between a 950 and a 1050. not a 1050 Ti. 1050 Ti's are 200 plus right now. So it's sitting in somewhere in between the 950 and 1050 price range. 950s can go up to that range depending on the kind you're getting. 1050s can drop down to that range depending on the kind you're getting. So it's sitting in the middle. The problem, or the advantage, I should say, for the 270X is that it is faster than both of those cards. It's significantly faster than a 950, and it has a few FPS advantage on the 1050 in most benchmarks. So for the $100 to $120 range, this is a bargain of a card. If you have a power supply that can handle the power requirements, and they're not that much, we're talking 180 watts. That's not excessive by any means. And you have a unit that can accept a card with a 1 6-pin PCIe power connector. Again, this one has 2, but that's not usual. Most of these are going to have 1, especially the reference boards. I would recommend an OEM partner's board because the coolers are going to be more efficient than the reference boards, but still, most of them do have the 1 6-pin PCIe power connector. So if you can find one with the 1 6-pin PCIe power connector, and you have an OEM system like a Dell or an HP that you can pop this puppy into, and it'll fit, and the power supply is robust enough to support all the rest of the components and this unit, this is a significant upgrade on something like a 950 with no power connector. The FPS wise, the 270X was seeing 10 plus FPS advantages at certain settings over the 950, which is a pretty impressive advantage. As you can see, things like Rise of the Tomb Raider on high, we're hitting 52 FPS, which is very playable at 1080p. 52 is perfect for Rise of the Tomb Raider. Shadow of War high, you can get 38 FPS, which is a little low, but it's still very playable. If you bump that down to medium, you're at 59 or 60, and that's very playable. It still looks pretty good at 1080p. If you go into like Tom Clancy's Wildlands, you can run medium and get 45 FPS. Very playable on that game. It's a third-person shooter. Those don't require twitch reactions or anything like that. Deus Ex is very playable at medium. Hitman is playable at actually pretty much all settings, all the way up to high. You're still above 50 FPS on Hitman, so that's really good. Obviously, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege is playable at all settings. So there's just a quick overview. Doom is playable on everything. I wouldn't be surprised if Doom was playable on a TI-83, to be honest with you. If someone brought me a graphic calculator with the new, not the original Doom, the new Doom on it, and said, oh, I got Doom playing with Vulkan on this thing, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. So everything will play Doom. So yeah, this is a good card, though. For $100 and $120, it's hard to beat its performance, its price-to-performance ratio. So this is a definite recommend for me. Do keep in mind that this is AMD refreshed this GPU twice. So you have the original HD 7870, you have the R9 270X, and then you have the R9 370, or not the R7 370. It was like a refresh that they only made in some countries. And I have a really hard time finding that one on eBay. So I probably just don't worry about that one. But if you are looking for this particular card, remember that you can search for both the HD 7870 and the R9 270X, and you will get pretty much equal performance on both of those cards, which means you have a larger pool of cards to pull from to find the deal that fits your budget. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop those down below. I need your feedback to let me know what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see, videos I need to do in the future, things I need to research, things I need to review, etc., etc. You help me create the content, so please let me know things like that. And that is it for today. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.